bring us up to date then. So you've evolved as a coach, as a trainer, as a developer, as somebody who can get inside an organization's head almost and help them understand what they need to do next. What are you doing at the moment? Has there been a sort of a natural evolution? Has there been a sort of a step change? What is it you're working on at the moment?
If I'm honest, it's probably a bit of all of that, but it shows itself as a step change. So just recently launched a new organization called Tribal Teams. But the essence and the kind of core components of that were probably born, 20 odd years ago. I remember, in fact, just over 20 years ago, there was, and still is, a tool that I use called Denison Culture Tool, which looks at measuring culture, but in terms of bottom line performance. And I got to know one of the co-authors of that tool, a guy called Professor Dan Denison, quite well, and went through some of the accreditation training and things like that out in Colorado at the time. And we were just kind of putting the will to rights over a whiskey one evening. He said to me, "You really should meet this friend of mine. He's English, and I think you'd find him really interesting." I didn't really know too much more. So I called up this guy when I got back to the UK, and he was really interesting character, almost your archetypal English explorer from another generation. And one of the first things he said to me was, "Nigel, Maasai, wonderful people, you've got to come and meet them." And me being me, kind of loving a sense of adventure, said, "Yeah, that sounds like a great idea, let's do that." And so as it happens, 3 days after the Twin Towers came down in New York, we set off out to Kenya, and we went out to the rural part of the Rift Valley. So we went to see the Maasai and spend time living with them, which was fantastic, but not the Maasai Mara who practically pick up your suitcases at the airport. This was a really remote tribe right out in the center of the Rift Valley, and it was just an incredible experience. And so much happened during that time. We were only there a week, but because we were there 24/7, I probably learned more in that week than I'd learned in the whole of my life, which was a surprise to me, because I'd gone out there as this kind of young, ego-driven upstart who had a great reputation for leadership in the face of adversity and performance under pressure and all of these great things. So the Maasai had not had rain out in the Rift Valley for 4.5 years. So I couldn't wait to discharge all of my thoughts, ideas and solutions and help kind of put this Maasai tribe on the right track. And it was the most humbling, beautiful experience I could have ever had, and literally learned so much. It was through some of those learnings, really, that the sense came that, I would be falling back on this at some point and actually looking for ways to incorporate and interweave this much more into the kind of the day-to-day work that I do. And that sense of actually getting to experience firsthand how we used to live 1,000 years ago, and the fact that it worked, and bringing that into industry today at a time where the marketplace, the world is very often confused, the kind of, whether it's a globalized pandemic or some other kind of globalized impact, people's worlds have changed beyond all recognition. And so that sense of being able to kind of interweave those kind of ancient tribal wisdoms and insights into those and values feels incredibly timely, and feels an incredible privilege to be able to kind of share and pass some of that on within, this new guise of, how we're working now, what Tribal Teams is really all about. It's fundamentally centered around remote and hybrid teams, and it looks at how to very quickly expedite that engagement and re-engagement of disparate teams. So whether that's disparate in the same country or disparate across many different countries, but that sense of real engagement where people are working remotely. And I think because the process is delivered remotely, we're role modeling that from day one using a process of team coaching. So it's really exciting times in terms of being able to take this out to market and look at actually helping people lead and grow their teams and team performance in a very different way, in a more community-led way.
Sounds amazing. I want to dig into some of the details of that after the break, if that's all right with you. But in terms of the shift for you, how have you navigated that journey? So for quite a lot of people, the last couple of years have been incredibly stressful, maybe encountering thoughts and processes that they've never really experienced before. Circumstances have dramatically changed. people, around them behaving differently? There's just so much going on, if you like, that is our bread and butter on a day-to-day basis for the last few decades. But for you personally, how have you navigated that? In what way did it influence the emergence of this new proposition for you?
I think probably it was a catalyst for it in so many ways. So this whole sense of kind of lockdown and seeing that happening on a kind of global scale was fascinating, really. My wife and I kind of tracked what was happening in terms of the kind of movement of things with this virus long before it came into the kind of lockdown status. So we kind of had a sense of what was coming, and it just felt to be a real flow in terms of recognizing what the impact of that was going to be for people, both at a personal level and in a kind of workforce level, what that meant in terms of dynamics within the workplace. That realization that, for people suddenly losing that sense of coming together, that sense of being in a community, a tribe, if you will, albeit, not perhaps quite as they would want to define it, but having it taken away had a significant impact. For me personally, it's been a fantastic opportunity to kind of actually shift and change my whole working pattern and style and find a fit that works. I don't travel anymore. And I have a wife that has a condition and a stepdaughter that has a condition, and that means they're not as mobile as they can be. But by actually being now 100% based from my home office means actually I can support a little bit for them between kind of work sessions, workshops, coaching sessions and things, but still actually have far more impact than I was able to have before, because I'm not sitting on a train or a plane and all those kind of things. But also I'm able to reach a more global audience much quicker and much faster. That's been the biggest transition, I think, noticing how quickly people have reorganized around using technology and creating virtual environments. And some have done that really well and others haven't. And I think one of the opportunities it provided was for me to look at almost a masterclass in how to build that psychological safety in a virtual environment. Because if you can do that, then you can bring people to the table at a level that you can't do even in a room. That opportunity to help people connect and re-engage at that level has just been fantastic and a real privilege. For us, it's been a great experience going through all of that. It's provided a fantastic reset that's allowed a different sense of balance within the family, but recognizing that that's not the case for everybody, and looking at actually how to help people re-engineer those working practices such that they can make the most from this new world going forwards, and focusing solely on that target area of just remote and hybrid teams allows us to make that kind of difference wherever people are in the world.